To me, this doesn't make sense. I don't understand this at all.
How long is that guy gonna stay in this business?
He's not coming back tomorrow. You're in the wrong business. This doesn't even make sense.
It can work, but there's easier ways to do this.
And we're not trying to piss everybody off either.
Well, maybe.
Hello everybody and welcome to an episode of Concrete Men React. Today we're going to be reacting to some good concrete videos and some bad concrete videos. With me today we've got two concrete veterans that have been doing this for how long?
Over 30 years.
You name it, we've done it.
With concrete?
Yes.
With concrete.
With concrete. And then over at the end we've got Riley and Stockton. You guys have seen them in the videos. They're kind of like our main concrete guys now. So anyway, we're going to be reacting to some videos, giving some tips and tricks, and just yeah, jump right into it.
Big one's over there. We just got this little tank pad.
Okay, first thing I see is it's a small pad, and his screed doesn't go from form to form.
That just
doesn't make sense.
It looks like it's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of easier ways to do this.
Well, if you see it, this guy screeding, he's bent over the entire time.
Yeah, that's one of our goals, is to get everybody up off the ground as much as possible to save everybody's backs.
Well, what do you think the theory is behind this? Because I've poured concrete with you guys before, and this is a tiny pad that we could probably screed in 5-10 minutes max.
Yeah, less than 5 minutes you'd have this poured out and screeded. This, to me, this doesn't make sense what they're doing. I don't understand this method of screeding, and maybe there's pride behind it.
Well, he's going off the form on one angle there, but not on the other angle. Which, this doesn't make sense to me from just the years I've spent screeding concrete with you guys. That seems to be like the easiest part of pouring concrete. You have your less experienced laborers, the ones that are down screeding concrete.
What I don't like about something like this is it's only going to be as flat as good as that screeder is, you know?
So if this was you guys, how would you pour this out?
One, it's so small that I probably just take a board all the way to the other end and just screed the whole thing, or to set up a roller screed and zip right through it.
Yeah, if you were pouring more on this job site than this, I would totally set up the roller screed.
Yeah.
It would give you perfectly flat concrete. You'd pour it out in no time. But if this was the only thing on this job that you were pouring, then you use a magnesium board or a wood board and just screed from form to form.
Form to form, yeah.
I'm not saying what he's doing is wrong. I just think this is, to me, looks like so much extra work that is completely unnecessary. At least with our company, it's always been about get everybody up off the ground.
Yeah.
Keep everybody bent over the least amount as possible. Saves your backs. I know lots of concrete guys that have been doing this for 30, 40 years and their backs are gone, completely gone. He's actually, see the line next to the form, that flat,
right here?
Part, yes, that line next to the form. Somebody else come and made a line, and you'll see it in the next video. See the guy with the laser? So they're actually making a line, and then he's shooting it with a laser to get his level. See him making the line so this guy can screed off this guy's concrete line. When you have the form that's all ready to grade, why would you not screed off this form? Now look, he's shooting. Use the laser to shoot your forms. Set your forms to grade, and then screed off your form. I don't understand. This to me does not make sense.
So do you think their forms aren't set to level? They're not set to grade, and that's why they're shooting off the mud?
If you're not setting your forms to grade, you're in the wrong business. This doesn't even make sense.
Well, if you think about it, and I was talking to you about this earlier, when you have like a cup of measuring, you're trying to measure flour for a cake, you get too much. What do you put on the flour? Like, what do you do to level it? Right? You get like a flat surface, like a knife or something. You put it on the cup of flour, on the cup, the measuring cup, and you slide it flat off. And that's the same principle to me anyway if I were to be pouring concrete.
Unless somebody else knows why they're doing this, or these guys happen to see this video and be pissed at us. Can you tell us why you do it this way?
I think part of it too is, you know, concrete guys that have been in it for a long time, they're grumpy. And they don't really like to change a lot. What works for them is what works for them. So I can see why but there is easier methods to make something like this go a lot quicker.
If this was us pouring this, I would have a row of screed chairs down the center all the way with the temporary rail, and then I would use a roller screed, and I would screed one side, move over, jump over to the other side, screed the other side. I think we would have this thing poured out probably in the same amount of time it's taken them just to do this little section. And if this is how everybody does it, that I've never seen anybody do it this way, but if this is how they do it, this is why nobody's getting in the business, because this is
this is
way
a
too much
lot
work.
of hard. This is hard work. It's back-breaking. The guy's bent over.
What happens if you don't have this guy working for you? You're starting to find now that it's really hard to find good laborers, especially skilled laborers. So I can put two brand new guys out there pulling a roller screed, or even screeding off the forms in our screed rail if they're screeding by hand, and they can't make a mistake. You're pretty much screeding off two surfaces that are set to grade. You can't really screw it up. So to me, this doesn't make sense. I don't understand this at all.
So for those watching that don't know what a screed chair is, because from what I've seen, a lot of people on the internet screed concrete this way. But do you want to explain what a screed chair is?
Okay, so as you have a form, they have their forms around the outside. It's just like setting a form down the middle. So you have something that you can screed off of that's set to grade and it's solid. So if in this situation, without some sort of temporary screed rail, you could not use the roller screed. Even the vibrating screeds, I've seen them do it, but if you let that vibrating screed sit at all, it's going to sink down into the concrete. If you're screeding off your form and screeding off a temporary rail using screed chairs, it doesn't matter how long it sits. It's not going to sink. So
once again, they got the laser there. They must have shot the grade up at the top. Now they're using a vibrator screed. But they're riding in the middle of the concrete. How hard is that to keep your level while you're riding in the middle of it?
Well, on some of these jobs, it probably doesn't matter if it's perfect or not, but there's a lot of jobs, especially commercial work. Your concrete has to be right on. They check it. And if you got dips and holes and places for water to puddle, you're tearing that out and replacing it. I don't think he's riding that at all on the form at all. I think he's riding it inside the form completely, which, again, that doesn't make sense to me. I've seen people do it. They do it all the time, and there's too many variables for me. I would say you have to be screeding off of solid surfaces. So you screed off your form and you screed off a temporary rail. Something like this, if we were to pour this, I would have a roller screed that goes from form to form, and I would pull that straight back.
Yeah.
And you'd pour this out, and it would be perfectly flat. I wouldn't even have a second thought. I wouldn't even think twice about how flat that's going to be, because I'm going from form to form, and it's going to be perfect. Now, see how he's not riding on the form?
Right.
Yeah, he's just going off of that other...
Whatever somebody else set.
Yeah.
And you have to be pulling that at the exact right speed so that doesn't sink.
Yep.
It'll vibrate right down into the concrete.
So here, once again, this seems like it's not too big of a pad. What do you think it is? Like 15 by 30, if that?
Yeah. Which we've done this a lot. I'm not saying it's what they're doing. What I can see they're doing is they've got some kind of something against that building that is their grade.
So like a chalk line or something.
It could be a chalk line. It could be a piece of trim that they're going off of. And so what they're doing is they're gonna have to come through there, and they're gonna float that line to that chalk line. And so somebody that's got some skills is gonna be the guy that has to go out there and float that line to that chalk line. And it's got to be pretty good, because that's what they're gonna screed off of to get their grade.
And this part right here, this brings up a good example of what you guys are already talking about with variables, because he's setting the grade here already on that side.
How's he setting the grade in the middle there? What did he use to set the grade in the middle? So now he's screeding off that. He just guessed, here's my grade in the middle. I think this is right.
I gotta get a grade. He just ruined it all.
This is too much like finesse. You can't say, hey, this is, go right off the form. It's black and white.
Yeah.
You know, you start having to do this finesse. Most guys, this is why if they, and as you can see, the boss guy or wherever the leader guy there's yelling at his employees, how long is that guy going to stay in this business? Eventually he's going to be like, yes, there's got to be easier way, man. Let's go.
He's not coming back tomorrow.
Yeah, it's just, it's too, it's that finesse. And I'm saying take that finesse out,
Yeah.
make it really simple so anybody can do it, and then it's completely right.
Take the variables out.
Yeah.
Take all the variables out, so your grade is set before you pour. Here you go. This is exactly what we do right here. This is exactly what they're doing. Is exactly what I would do.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see one guy bent over.
No, you get everybody up off the ground.
Yep.
No variables now. It doesn't matter who's pulling that screed. They're going to have to go over it more than once. And you can see as they pull that back, they're pulling the concrete. So you can get your shovelers or rakers to pull it back from the edges so you're not losing it over the edge if that's what people are worried about. But that's so minuscule that...
Yeah, now nobody's bent over. All they're doing is filling it in. And then you got guys finishing it right behind it. I mean, this is...
Look how fast
This
they're
is-
going.
this is-
Look how flat that is.
Yeah.
Your roller screeds get this so flat. It's so much nicer to finish, especially power trowel, anything, to finish after a roller screed than it ever is after hand screeding.
And you're going to keep your guys.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to be back-breaking.
Okay, you can totally see these guys are using some sort of rail in the middle.
Yeah.
It's not even possible to use a roller screed without some sort of rail. So I don't know what they're using, whether it's a 2x or a
Because it would sink otherwise.
screechers. Yeah, it will just roll right down into the mud.
Well, you can just look. I mean, you compare it to the other videos. You got, look how much quicker they're going. Nicer it looks, and all of them are all standing up. You got nobody bent over.
Yeah, we've poured pads that are hundreds of feet long in one pour, 50, 60 feet wide, hundreds of feet long. I mean, we've got one roller screed that'll go 27 feet. But I mean, we've done tons of hand screeding. I'm not saying we don't hand screed too. We got vibrating screeds too that different situations. When we do sidewalks, we have a sidewalk screed, which is absolutely amazing.
So with something like this, though, this is a little bit trickier of a pour because you've got your rebar in there and they're using adobe bricks, which is fine. But they're also pouring on top of a vapor barrier. So how would you guys do it when you're on top of your vapor barrier?
Okay, so I would use screed chair that sits on top of the vapor barrier, so you're not pounding a rebar down through the vapor barrier. So you set that to grade. You'll adjust it, set it to grade. Set your row of screed chairs, set your rail beforehand, and then you're pouring. You're using your roller screed or your whatever you're using. You could use that screed they're using. See, look at it. Just watch it.
Yeah.
Watch the end of this screed. Go back. Can you go back? Watch the end of the screed. Watch it. See, look at it up and down, up and down, up and down. It just sunk right at the end. This is what you'd use for a vapor barrier. So you'd set a row of these up, set it on your vapor barrier, shoot your grade, and you just cut that off. Boom. Zip it off to your height that you're gonna do, and then you would take right there. There's your screed chair. And then what you have, this sits on there, and what you have is a metal flat bar that will sit in here. It's 2 inches tall. It's 3/8 inches wide, so it's very strong. And you ride your screed on top of that rail. It's set perfect. And there's a lot of guys that like the flat bar, which that's what we like, but there's also this for a round bar. Same thing, same idea, 2-inch round bar. The round one, you can see you're gonna have a 2-inch pipe that you're gonna have to fill. When you pull your pipe through, you're gonna have to fill that void because it's gonna be, a 2-inch pipe that's through the whole concrete. So you're gonna have to fill that in and float it in. This, you can see, you got this little tiny groove, and most of the time you can just take your float and go right over the top and it just fills it in. To me, the key to screeding is just get it poured out as fast as possible to give you the most time to finish. I've seen some of these guys where it's taking them hours and hours just to screed their concrete, get it poured out and screeded. Instead of using screed chairs, these guys have put a 2x4. But you can see on the other side where they've already poured, they have a 2x4 also. You can see the stakes sticking up. So what's going to happen is these guys are going to have to go back after they're done pouring, and they're going to have to pull these 2x4s up out of the ground, out of the concrete. They're going to have to fill it with concrete, those grooves that are left, and they're going to have to float all that out. This system is perfect because you're not doing any of that. You're just pulling that rail through as you're pouring. See that? He's not even sinking. So now you got an issue of what they should have done is as they screeded that center section, they should have pulled that out and filled that. But now you got separation. You have to, that concrete, I don't know how long it took them to pour, but that concrete's already setting up on that other side. So now you have a separation there. If they don't cut that line, you could have a crack right there because they've already separated that concrete. It's not wet enough now for the concrete to get pushed back together very well. You could end up with a big crack all the way down that.
Yeah.
So if it was us, well, I probably wouldn't have poured that way.
Yeah, I'd have poured it the other way.
I would have pulled screeds this way.
Yep. And then they could have been finishing as they went instead of.
See, you don't even got to float. Nobody's even floated.
They haven't floated
yet.
nothing. I mean, they've kind of floated. Looks like that first section, and I guess they floated the second section, but they've been floating it. But you're gonna have to re-hit all with the float when you pull all those boards out.
So this is the last one I want to show you guys. This is another one of the classic, but this is a really, really long stretch of pad, and now they've got 2 screeders in there.
How are they setting their grade in the middle? What's setting the grade in the middle there? Are they shooting that with a laser? Like, how do they know what your grade is there in the middle? Somebody's took a float and gave yourself a nice flat level line. To me, why would you do that when your form is already your flat, perfectly to grade line? You can just screed right off the form. Somebody needs to answer that because I don't understand it. Our whole goal after doing all that is how do we get everybody up off the ground? How do we make this easier for everybody so they don't hate pouring concrete? Because most guys you talk to hate concrete, and we're like, concrete's easy. It's probably one of the easiest things we do.
You're already bent over forming it all. Pounding stakes, pulling stakes, cleaning forms, and if you got to be bent over the whole day you're pouring, and then you got to think, hey, tomorrow we're going to do this all again on another job.
Every day.
I mean, all this stuff's heavy. The forms are heavy. Everything, you're packing them around. I'm just saying that, matter of fact, pouring's actually probably the easiest part opposed to the forming and loading and everything else that goes along with it.
But we've also invested in the right screeds, the right tools. All of our tools are on poles. Very rarely are you bent over. Sometimes you're bent over using a float, but most of our pours, everything's on poles, and try to get everybody up off the ground as much as possible.
And I would never pour without this thing. It's the only one I would ever use. It's very simple. You don't have to walk down the middle, fill it all in, float right over it, done.
You put it up next to buildings. They're removable. You can reuse them as many times as you want. If you can get to them, pull them out, wash them up, and reuse them. I just feel like that the concrete industry is so far back in the Stone Age. I've never seen so many people pour this way. It's mind-blowing. Everybody here where we're at, all the jobs I've ever been on, I've never seen anybody do this, ever.
So real quick before we end, for all the concrete guys out there that are having those issues, they're skilled laborers, their backs are out. They probably don't have that big of a budget, but they're trying to keep their business going. What would you recommend that these guys get to make them more money, save them time, and save them laborers?
I would invest in a roller screed. You can buy, our first roller screed was electric. It was just it was literally a electric drill mounted to some bars that you pulled, and we had aluminum pipes, which they were light, but they sometimes would ride on top of the concrete. So now we use steel pipes, hydraulic roller screeds, but have these guys even been pulling up that rebar?
Yeah, I didn't see him pulling that rebar up.
This is another reason buy rebar chairs.
Yep. Do you have your rebar chair here?
Yes, we do.
Okay. They should have been using these. That way that rebar's up. You know, no worries. You know, it's done right. I mean, at the end of the day, just if you're going to do it, do the best you can possibly do, you know.
These are good because they're solid. So we've used the little bricks, which I absolutely love the little bricks, but these are solid metal, very hard to bend. And we've used the plastic ones, and I mean, there's some really good plastic ones out there, but the cheap ones that you buy, they break so easy. These do not break. You can bend them if you really try. But for the most part, these are super solid, really easy to use. They snap in, so they actually lock onto the rebar. So
you guys were using screed chairs way before you even making them, right?
screed chairs were actually invented back in the 20s. In fact, this pretty much almost this exact design was invented. They called it a screed chair, and it was invented in the 20s. So everybody should be using these. Any concrete guy that isn't using these and hasn't been using these since the 20s is... all I can say is they're not looking.
Well, once you try it once, you know, you'll never go back. It's just one of those things where once you do it, you know, but there again, I know a lot of concrete guys and they're kind of grouches. They just don't, you know, they don't like change. They like it the way they do it. All you concrete guys,
they die out.
Just try it one time. One time. Yes, you won't go back.
And we've got tons of videos on the channel showing how to use these. It's really simple. I mean, you get the screed chairs, some rebar, and then just a 2 by 3/8 inch flat bar, which you can get that just at anywhere.
Everybody sells it. All metal places sell that flat bar. It's standard. But another thing I think people should really look into is a roller screed. If you can afford the hydraulic ones, they're super powerful. You can pull big pipes. But if you can't, look at the electric ones. They have tons of different versions of the electric ones they're cheap. You can use aluminum pipes. The pipes aren't that expensive. You can even build your own if you look and see how they're built. They're just using like angled drills, big angled drills. I think our first one was a Makita, cost us like $400. And then I don't remember how much the screed system was with it, but $1,000 maybe. $1,500, you got a roller screed. Perfect screeds, you're saving your guys' backs. So I would definitely look into roller screeds.
Well, with that, if you guys want to pick up any of these products, you can find them at screedchair.com. We've got all of our screed chair variants. So let us know your guys' thoughts down below just about some of the videos we watched. What are some of your preferred methods of screeding? This seems to be the easiest that we've found. And also, if you screed the other way without using the forms, let us know why. We don't understand.
And we're not trying to piss everybody off either.
Well, maybe.